Welcome everyone to this webinar on circular design for furniture. I am your host, Gabriela Kemendi, EFIC Secretary General. We are very glad to see that this event has sparked so much interest. We have so far about 120 participants. We received a lot more interest to attend, and I'm sure that there will be more people connecting throughout the session. And we have participants from all over Europe and beyond. We have policymakers around the table, industry representatives, retailers, suppliers, NGOs, academia, and we're very glad to have all these actors here today. We have an exciting agenda for you today, and a great lineup of speakers. We have an intervention from the European Commission and 2 panel discussions with association and industry experts. We brought all of you together here today to discuss the potential of circular design in the transition of the furniture industries to a more circular economy. Normally, this event would have taken place as a physical conference, but this has not been possible due to the external circumstances. And we're having a Zoom webinar instead. As you know, EU policymakers are committed to making Europe climate neutral by 2050. And we've seen a number of initiatives with the European Green Deal that should achieve this goal. And European policymakers are also very committed to making sustainable products and services the norm throughout Europe. And we've seen a number of proposals with the new Circular Economy Action Plan that was launched in March this year towards that objective. One of the main cornerstones of the Circular Economy Action Plan will be a sustainable products initiative, which will address product groups that were identified as a priority in the Circular Economy Action Plan, and this includes furniture. So as you see, this discussion is more than relevant at the moment. The European furniture industry is very committed to circularity and to the transition to a circular economy, and there is already a number of best practices, as you can hear today from our experts. Before we deep dive into the agenda, I have a couple of housekeeping items for you. So we will be recording this webinar. It will be made available on our website together with a report of the conference. So you will be able to rewatch it and to share it with your contacts and networks as you see fit. Questions can be addressed throughout the sessions to our panelists via the chat function, which you can see on the right-hand side of Zoom. And we will address as many questions as time allows. We'll also be launching a couple of polls because we want to include the audience in the discussion as much as possible and to hear your views. And we will also be active on social media. So if you're not following EFIC on social media yet, this is the right moment to do so. And we will be sharing over the chat the links to our social media accounts, so Twitter and LinkedIn. And do not hesitate to follow us and to get involved in the discussion with the use of hashtag circular furniture. So I suggest that we get started, and it is my pleasure to give the floor to Markus Wiesner for his opening remarks. Markus has been president of EFIC since 2011, so he knows the industry very well and also the European landscape. Markus is also CEO of Wiesner Hager, an Austrian company which offers office furnishing services. So Markus, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. So, hello everybody. I hope you are fine during this crisis and pandemic. In Austria, at the moment, we have a complete lockdown, and it's really not exciting. But I think it's the right time to think about the future. And therefore, dear guests, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you today to our webinar on circular design for furniture. I send a special welcome to our member federations and their representatives. We are glad, as Gabriela said, to connect policymakers, representatives of industry, supplier organization, NGOs, universities, and other stakeholders in this event to discuss the importance and the potential of circular design. To be clear, the European furniture industry is completely in line with the ambitions of the European Commission and the institutions on circular economy. The goal is that at the end of this process, circular products and services should get the norm in Europe. We are convinced that circular economy is a powerful tool to address the challenges the world is facing today, especially the climate change. The current crisis opens for us the opportunity for a green recovery based on a truly circular and low carbon economy. This will boost competitiveness and increase the resilience of supply chains through new business models that offer repaired, reused, refurbished, and remanufactured products. Circular loops will decrease reliance on new materials and lead to a higher resource efficiency. But we have to be aware that a true and complete transition to circularity in our sector is really a huge change for the furniture industry. I'm not talking about single measures like recycling, waste management, a single new business model, or tracking of a certain chemical. We are talking about a holistic approach to circularity. Many of our companies are still at the starting point, but for all small and big companies, it will take a long time managing this transition. We have to be aware. To be clear, becoming a circular business is for me not an option, it's a must in the future. And we have to convert the efforts and investments on this transition to competitive advantages. Another important thing is to be successful, we must embark on this journey together. Collaboration among industry, policymakers, suppliers, and academia is very, very important to succeed. We need to learn from each other and embrace together the opportunities and challenges ahead of us. Our message to policymakers is we also need harmonized rules and definitions set at EU level. We need to ensure a common understanding among industry players, and we need a level playing field, also including imported products from third countries. Our industries are highly orientated toward international markets. Therefore, we need to rely on fair competition principles. Dear guests, how do we embark on the circular economy journey? We have gathered today, as Gabriele said, to discuss one of the cornerstones for a more circular economy in our sector, namely circular design. Circular design principles are key to enable circular loops based on reuse, repair, refurbishment, and recycling. Some of the furniture companies have already very good experience with circularity, and we will hear, and we are glad to hear today, some valuable examples today. I very much hope that today's discussion will be inspiring for you. Finally, I would like to thank Gabriela Kemendi as Secretary General and Georgia Murcha for organizing this event. And I would also like to thank all the panelists for their contribution. Thank you very much, and let's start.
Thank you so much, Markus. We've heard inspiring words from you to all the companies that are here today with us. Embrace circularity. It is an opportunity for you and a competitive advantage. We've also heard words from Markus on the need for harmonization and for collaboration. And these are ideas that we will hear more and more during the sessions that we have ahead of us. With this, I'm also very glad to see that we now reached 175 participants. Welcome everyone, and I hope that this discussion will be very valuable for you. We're very glad to have you here in our webinar today. And with this, I would like to welcome our next speaker, Ms. Paola Migliorini. She's Deputy Head of Unit at Unit B2 in DG Environment, dealing with sustainable products and sustainable consumption. Paola, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to be here today with us. We really appreciate this. Paola, we have the new Circular Economy Action Plan, which was launched in March this year. And furniture was identified as one of the priority product groups. So there's a number of initiatives that are now in the pipeline from the European policymakers, and we would like to hear from you what the furniture industries can expect. So I give the floor to you.
Thank you for your words of introduction. I can start immediately by saying how in line and how much I welcome the words of the President about circularity not being an option for your sector, but really being a must. Because in fact, what I was going to give you as overview were some of the features that we have in the policy pipeline. You know that we have adopted a Circular Economy Action Plan earlier this spring, and that we in the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, we have as Commission adapted our work plans to ensure that we devised measures for supporting the recovery. So the next generation EU is meant to support precisely the transition, among other things, to circularity in this new context. This pandemic forces us to really change the way we produce and consume, which has been the line for circularity in the past years. And so we really wanted to give an additional support to those sectors that were hit hard, and then furniture being, of course, one of those. For those of you who have followed the policy developments, you will also recognize that with the recovery plan, we have given additional policy support also to the objectives of the European Green Deals. So we are in a situation where we have put forward a policy and a strategy for sustainable growth. We have specific measures with the action plans that tell us exactly what we're going to do in the next years. And we think that this can help and supports the sector. So I want to go very quickly to these specific measures. And then when you have seen the action plan, so you will have identified at least some themes. So the main ones, and then the flagship really that we have put forward is the work on the sustainable product policy framework. This framework comprises of a series of measures, some that acts really on products and or productions, and some on consumptions. So the one initiative that I would like to go and give you more details is the initiative that we call it the Sustainable Products Initiatives. It is an initiative that will come towards the end of 2021. It is central to the product policy framework because it aims to make sustainable products being the norm. What does it mean? We propose basically to revise the Eco-Design Directive to extend its scope beyond energy-related products, and we wanted to deliver on circularity. So furniture is precisely one of these type of products that will be the focus of this initiative. The initiative per se will also be developed in coordination with others for empowering consumers, and then, for example, on the green claims. But why are we actually acting on products. Why do we need to act on how products are designed, for example? Well, many products, you will know, break down too quickly. They cannot be easily reused, they cannot be repaired, they cannot be recycled or to the extent that they could. And many are also made for single use only. So, and there is not really a comprehensive set of requirements that ensures that all products can become sustainable, or that they are sustainable, and then there are really the stand the test of circularity. So we also realize that there are not sufficient incentives for manufacturers to go towards circularity. We know that we can act on the costs, but we also need to look at how we can make it more interesting from an innovation perspective, and then having new materials and encouraging the development of new materials for products. And again, I'm thinking of furniture as really one of these specific areas. So in details, what are we going to, or what are we working to include in this sustainable products initiatives? So we will set some horizontal concepts or horizontal criteria, for example, to improve the product durability, its reusability, upgradability, and repairability. We will very likely increase and adopt some essential requirements for recycled content in products, measures that will facilitate also the remanufacturing of some products, and then act on, as I said, on production processes. We will very likely restrict single use, looking to counter premature obsolescence. And then we are planning to ban the destruction of unsold durable goods. This is something that we have to take up, and we are taking up also together with e-commerce platforms, for example. We want to incentivize different business models, namely the one of a product as a service. And we think that we could make improvements if we make a mandatory labeling, or at least a labeling of some specific information. We are working to this end also to digital product passports. Some of you might already know what it is, at least the aim. It's really to address traceability of materials along the value chain. The difficulty in this digital product passport will be really to determine which information is needed at which point in the value chain, and can be accessed by which actor. Because of course you can understand that at different moment in the value chains, different type of information might be needed and be relevant. So also we cannot provide consumers, for example, with information that it's of little relevance for them, but at the same time might be relevant for actors in steps that are before the consumption level. So we are really trying to work on this, and then of course together with all the stakeholders, getting and gathering the necessary input. Other aspects that we are doing with the sustainable product initiatives relates to public procurement. We really want to make it mandatory progressively, depending on the timing of revisions of, for example, thematic policies or thematic legislations. So we are not planning to act on the public procurement directive as such, but depending on the product groups and on the appropriate legislations, we are really looking to make it mandatory, following the examples of a couple of countries that have already experienced and decided to go for mandatory public procurement. We are also going to address some social aspects through the life cycle of products wherever that is feasible, and the details of this still need to be clarified exactly how we're going to do. What is important at this point, I think, it's the timing of the initiative. I said that the proposal is planned for the end of 2021. We have published the Inception Impact Assessment in the usual portal of the Better Regulation Have Your Say of the Commission, and it was open until yesterday, the 16th, so 2 days ago, for your comments. But this was not the last step in the procedure where we could gather your feedback. We are working towards the impact assessment, and we have a public consultation that is going to be open towards the end of the year or beginning of next year. So that will be another moment where you can come in. So this is really for the general products initiative. I wanted to say just a few words now on the textile strategy, which is another of the initiative that we have announced in the action plan. Some of you might question whether we are going forward with it or not, mainly because it is not included in the Commission Work Program for 2021. But I would like to remind that Commission Work Program really includes legislative initiatives as such. The textile strategy is considered a policy initiative. It will comprise some legislative measures, but as I said, we are really at the beginning of this of the proper work of working on the document. What is the aim of this strategy that has and will have impact also on your sector? We want to make it really broader, so it's not just the textile. It really looks at all the different sectors where textiles are used. We want to make textile circular. We will also try to use this to put forward some of the conditions and to address some of the challenges that will help the sector re-emerge from the crisis and becoming greener and then more sustainable overall. What we're looking, the textile strategy or the document that will come out will probably be comprised of a series of targets that we are thinking of developing also with the industry, targets for to increase the capacity of reuse, for example, or recycling. We will have a big chunk of actions for product design. As I said also before, looking at maybe recycled content, supporting the development of innovative materials, more sustainable materials. We will work also, for example, in the context of the review of the Industrial Emission Directive on production processes, and then we are going to update the best available technique reference document for textiles. We are also including, very likely in the strategy and packaging it together as a presentation, the measures to reduce microplastics discharge from textiles. This was a measure of the plastic strategy that we're working on. So not only working with producers of washing machines, for example, to address it through filters, but also working with the producer of textiles and understand and of textile products, and understand how they can actually act on this microplastic discharge, knowing that a lot of the discharge happens on the first wash. So trying to combine this first wash at production level rather than at consumption, so in the households of the consumers. There will be measures in this textile strategy also for retail and consumption, trying to set incentives to reward the products as a service and other business models that I was indicating. We are going to revise the EU eco-label criteria, and in this one we will very likely, this is a very good example where we will propose minimum mandatory green public procurement criteria and targets for textiles. We are going to look also to consider the need, for example, to evaluate if the regulation on textile fiber names is fit for purpose. So trying to understand if we can work also with some of the definitions there. A few measures also on waste. I remember that we will have the mandatory separate collection of textile kicking in 2025. So we will need to work not only with infrastructures but with municipalities to try to see how we can make this measure really implementable, knowing that the collection of used textiles now is very much in the hand of NGOs or in completely different channels. So we needed really to see how we make these transitions without impacting negatively on the actors that are living of this activity. There will be an international dimension because, as you know, we need to address the issues of imported goods that are not produced accordingly to EU standards, and at the same time working on social aspects also and due diligence in the across the value chain, the global value chain. As as all the initiatives from the commissions, we will also have a big package of investments and research and innovation measures. The largest one will come and supports will come from Horizon Europe, very likely. So for the timing of the textile strategy, again, 2021 will be really the year where we'll continue to exchange even more in details with public consultations and webinars. I take the opportunity to thank EFIC for this one. As I said, the textile strategy will cover all sorts of sectors. So thematic discussions like the one that we will have or you will have today to bring more circularity to the sector will contribute to raise awareness and to find solutions. And with this, Gabriela, I would stop my intervention and I'll leave some time for questions, and I will also be available afterwards in the next month to continue this appropriate discussion. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Paola, for this very valuable insights. You mentioned that there is an ongoing stakeholder consultation on the Sustainable Products Initiative. We have contributed as EFIC with a position paper, which has been now shared via the chat. And in this position paper, we have called on policymakers to ensure that there is harmonized circular economy rules put in place at EU level. That EU policymakers look also into the definitions of different circularity principles so that everyone has the same understanding. We would like that the industry is involved in this process of creating the upcoming legislation and also standardization bodies, which will ensure the harmonization that is needed. And we would also recommend to the European Commission that there is a holistic approach across all the policies that are upcoming or that are already existing at the moment. So I just wanted to mention that. And I have a couple of questions to you, Paola. And if there's any questions from the audience, please don't hesitate to write it via the chat. A couple of questions to you, Paola. So you mentioned the Eco-Design Directive,
Yes.
which will be widened to
Yes.
cover non-energy related products as well. This, of course, also covers furniture. So in terms of timeline, we know that it will be a proposal for a directive. Will need to be go through the decision-making process, and afterwards need to be transposed into national legislation. But I'm sure that companies that are around the table today would like to have some indication on the timeline in terms of when will eco-design criteria potentially be applicable for furniture. How many years from now, let's say. And then my second question would be, what would be your general recommendations to the industry so far in terms of circularity and all the initiatives that are in the pipeline?
Okay, thank you very much. So for the timeline, you need to factor in the usual timing for legislations. So if you think, let me consider the last initiative that we have adopted on single-use plastic, for example. That was relatively fast, but it took still 1 year. No, it from the moment we started discussing it took 1 year, but the negotiations were exceptionally fast in council, so we cannot expect to have the same thing. So I would because it took just a few months somehow. For this sustainable product initiatives, I must say that the discussion in councils and with the parliament are already advancing, not specifically on the proposal, but we have said a lot of what we intend to do in the circular economy action plan, for example. So all the member states we think have a lot they are, how can I say, they're gaining grounds in their own understanding of what can come. So when we will table the proposal, and you can expect it at the end of 2021, I would say that you need to factor in at least 1 year for the discussion, for the measures to become enforceable. And then again, this will take, we're talking about horizontal principles, something like, and I'm not, so don't take it for what is going to be, but the idea, and I'm just using it as to illustrate what are these horizontal principles, something that will set up some kind of a product hierarchy. Just like we have the waste hierarchy with steps. Well, for products, same thing. Well, you need to look at recycled content first. You need to look at reuse first. So it might be something like that. And then for the specifics, as I said, coming from the textiles, we might have some specific recycled content provisions. But again, this I understand the difficulty maybe in seeing the dynamic of how all these different measures will come together. What I can say is that we are planning, and again, take it for what it is in the sense of discussion and thinking currently within Commission services, to work along the system of the Eco-Design Directive with a work plan that will last maybe 3 years. So we will determine product groups, and the first to include are already announced in the action plan. And then in the roadmap that you have seen, and in the inception impact assessment, they are spelled out. So you can expect measures for some specific sectors already, but I would not think that you can see anything enforceable before a year or even maybe 2, because then you will have to factor in the time for transposition into national legislations. But
Sure.
you see, so it's. I want to give a message of reassuring that there is time, because I take again the words of the President Wissner that spoke earlier on, saying that the little ones is the SMEs that really will need time to adapt. So from the Commission, what we are always trying to do is putting measures, sending clarity of messages, and at the same time, for those that need to adapt, so not the front runners, but those that need to adapt, setting in place measures, supports measures that can come also through regional funds, for example. So it's not only the horizon, the research aspects, but also through regional funds, the themes of circularity and transitions to circular economy are there. So there are different ways that that companies can reach out to their own regions or to their own countries to get the supports to adapt to the transition. So it's really, I understand it's more work somehow because it's complex, but be assured that we are trying to support. And then your general other question, general recommendations. So one recommendation is just this, precisely to also look for funds in other areas where you might not necessarily think, so the regional development funds. And then the other one, it's always my big suggestions to know, sometimes people, it's not only a question of not having the funds, it's not knowing what to do. So to get inspirations of how you can transition, I always suggest to go to the website of the Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, where you have best practices from different countries, different companies, accordingly to sectors. And there you can see where you can maybe start from for changing your production processes, or focusing on materials or other things.
Well, thank you so much for these insights, Paula. I see that we have some questions via the chat. Unfortunately, we only have 1 hour and a half for the entire webinar, so we will not be able to take all the questions. But I would like to bring up one of them from Ebia. the Bedding Manufacturers Association. The question is, will the existing eco labels be the basis for establishing sustainability requirements under eco design? Eco labels are hardly used in the bedding sector, and this also happens in the furniture sector. The uptake has been very low. So if you could please respond to this question,
Yes.
appreciate it.
Okay, so I take it really by the words. So no, existing the EU eco label, for example, will not be the basis for establishing sustainability requirements. This under eco design, this will be established in the normal, very likely in the process we're using and the methodology that will be set up for assessing sustainability requirements under eco design. It will be something specific, a separate methodology. But it is true that we are revising and we have existing eco label criteria that we want to improve, and we want to put forward as labels that are indicative of a really sustainable product. I'll just give you some information about in the past 6 months, the amount of products and licenses of EU eco label has increased by 20%, only in the 6 past months. So we also are listening to and looking at the signals that we get from consumers. And this is why, and you've seen in the past 6 months, purchases online have increased as it is normal. And we are engaging a lot now with e-platforms to ensure that they put forward the EU eco labels. In fact, we have been requested to cooperate with them because there is a request from consumers. So I understand, and we know that the EU eco label is hardly used in your sector, but we see an increase. So somehow consumers are looking for that label. They are recognizing the value of it. So you see, there's a balance that we need to reach on pushing the label. So we are working to improve it. It will not be the base for the eco design essential requirements somehow. And remember also, the eco labels is always only for the 10% excellent products in sustainability. So, and it's a voluntary tool. So you cannot, and it will remain a voluntary tool. This is why it cannot be the basis for setting requirements that will be mandatory. Okay, so this is very important to see the difference.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for that, Paola. I would like to reiterate the wish of the furniture industries to be involved in the update or of existing legislation and in upcoming legislation. And I think, for example, and I speak for the entire industry here, when the new criteria of the eco label for furniture will be revised, we would definitely want to be involved to make sure that the uptake can be higher in the industry as such. And I see that there are some other questions in the chat. Unfortunately, we will not be able to address these. Perhaps we can take these on a bilateral basis after the webinar. We still have 2 panel discussions to go through. I also see from the European Furniture Retailers Association that they are willing to work together with us and with the European Commission on circular economy. So I wanted to mention this already. And with this, I would like to thank you so much, Paola, for being here today. Very valuable insights, and we will be definitely in touch in months and years to come.
Thank you very much. Yes, and I'll assure the audience that I will provide you follow-up information also that you can share with all the audiences on the revision of the eco label criteria. I have something that I really wanted to share, so then you can also share further afterwards. Okay, so thank you very much to you, and let's continue this conversation in the weeks and months to come. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you very much, Paola. So we've heard earlier about the potential of circular economy and circular design from Markus Wiesnam, and how circular design and circular economy have the potential to mitigate a number of challenges such as climate change. And now we want to dig a bit deeper into this idea to see whether we are on the right track to circularity as furniture industry. What are the main drivers? What are the challenges? And what can policymakers do for us? And who could give you better insights on all these questions than our two next speakers, Omar Degoli and Robin Jungar, Chair and Vice Chair of the EFIC Circular Economy Working Group. Welcome both. Omar Degoli, apart from his role in EFIC, he is environmental advisor at Federlegno Arredo, the Italian Federation of Woodworking and Furniture Industries. And he's working with environmental legislation in the industrial field in various business associations such as EFIC. He's also dedicated to looking into new economic models such as the circular economy. So welcome again, Omar. And Robin, apart from his role as vice chair of the EFIC Circular Economy Working Group, is head of sustainability at the Swedish Federation of Wood and Furniture Industry, DMF, where he's responsible for the work on the Agenda 2030 and projects on circular material flows in the wood and furniture industry. Welcome, Robin, as well. As always, to the audience, please don't hesitate to ask questions via the chat. We will be able to address a couple of them depending on the time, but please do not hesitate to ask them. And if we don't have the time, we can address them after the webinar. So I think we can get started. Omar and Robin, my first question to both of you would be the following. So how can we ensure as furniture industries that we contribute to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and also to the European Commission's European Green Deal? And what is the role of circularity in this process?
Oh, okay. Maybe I can start. Okay.
Sure.
I think we can get quite an old answer to this, in my view, because as a European manufacturer sector, I think that probably the main contribution that furniture industries can provide to become to reach the Sustainable Development Goals and the climate target of the European Commission is to become an even more resource efficient sector, because climate plans and sustainable development goals are very broad, but they always land on use of resources ultimately. So resource efficiency was also the backbone of the EU initiatives before circular economy, and then circular economy arrived and added a framework based on design and driven by economy to that strategy. So every time we use these tools that circular economy made available to us, like new business models or inner circle closing, we are certainly building a more competitive product or more competitive company or a more competitive sector, but we are also optimizing the use of resources. And when there is an underutilized resource, there is a room for improvement, and an improvement in resource utilization leads to an improvement towards the climate and sustainable goals.
Thank you, Omar. So resource efficiency would be your main message here.
Yeah,
what
definitely.
About Robin?
Well, I would say that the Green Deal is a vital roadmap for the work within the European Union to achieve the climate goals. And the Circular Economy Action Plan is an important part of it to point out the directions on how the industry will be able to develop business models, and very important, how to create customer value based on a circular logic. And the global initiative Agenda 2030 is the broad framework for our common work for sustainable development. And the furniture industry in particular plays an important role to contribute. And we have identified a number of sustainable development goals that are crucial for our industry, such as goal number 8, promoting sustainable economic growth and decent work conditions throughout the whole supply chain. Goal number 13, protecting the climate. Goal number 15 for biodiversity and sustainable forestry. And for today's discussions, I would say that goal number 12 is in focus, where we want to ensure sustainable consumption and production. And here, circular economy is a decisive tool to be successful. And of course, the furniture industry can be a role model for fulfilling these goals.
Thank you, Robin. So we've discussed the importance of circularity to mitigate climate change, for example. And we've also heard earlier from Marcus that we are at the onset of this transition to circularity in the furniture sector. Omar, do you think that we are on the right track to circularity in the furniture sector?
Well, it's of course an ongoing transition, as the president said at the beginning. It's a long journey, and we are just at the beginning. Many companies are at the very beginning of this journey. But I think yes, we are on the right track. I have a couple of reasons for this. The first one is commitment. A transition towards circular economy needs a deep shift in the mindset of the company owners. And I get that. I see that. I see a level of commitment in our companies that I never saw in 20 years of environmental consulting. And the reason for this, I think, it's because circular economy makes very clear also the economic advantages of being circular. So we were used to, as environmental experts, to talk to companies, to clients, showing surveys saying that the customer are willing to pay 10% more for a more sustainable product. No, but circular economy reverse that because you don't need anymore a green consumer to buy your green product. You just have to focus on your product or your service or your offer and embed some principle in the design phase of your product, and you end up with a product which is more competitive and which every customer will be able to enjoy because it's more appropriate for its use and its need. And another great advantage, which is also a little danger of circular economy, is that it provides different level of access. So every company could take its proper an appropriate angle to engage in this process. So if you are a big corporation, you can set up a big scheme for the take back of your products, which could be complex by logistic. But if you are a small company, you can work on the redesign of your product. This makes the big picture less clear. So the action of the various companies are scattered and very different. And this is also, to me, should ring a bell for the legislator when it comes to regulate eco-design principles, because products are very different and solutions could be very different. So energy-related product is more easy to address because you have a fixed goal. While for our sector, it could be tricky because different recipes could work for different product. But definitely commitment and appropriate level of action for every company made me think that we are on the right track. Yes.
Thank you, Omar. So words of encouragement, we are on the right track. There's already a shift in the mindset. There will be no solution that fits all companies, as we've seen, but we are on the right track. This is reassuring. Robin, if you could also briefly tell us, why do you think that circular economy is an opportunity, and why should companies regard it as an opportunity?
Very interesting. I would say that the furniture industry is very well suited for being a role model in developing circular business models and designing circular products. There are a number of circular design principles which can be applied to furniture, such as modular design based on components, possibility to upgrade a piece of furniture during its lifespan, and also to make furniture easy to disassemble, facilitating repair, reuse, recycling, and remanufacturing. And different circular business models are of interest for furniture, such as selling the furniture as a service or as a function, exploring different ownership solutions during renting, leasing, or reusing, and also enabling care, repair, refurbishment, and second-hand markets are of great interest to explore. And we see both well-established companies and a lot of startups experimenting with different ways of creating customer value based on new circular business models. So I would say on the whole, furniture is very well suited for developing both products and business models promoting the circular economy. And just like Omar mentioned, we've only just started this exciting journey.
Absolutely. So we've seen the importance of transitioning to a circular economy. We want to address the next question to our audience. So you will see now a poll on the screen, and you're kindly invited to select the preferred option. We would like to hear from you. What is your opinion on the main drivers of more circular furniture in the future? So we have different options on the screen. We have demand for private and commercial customers, green public procurement, eco-design rules, extended producer responsibility, other. So please take a couple of seconds to reply to this question. Okay, 70 people have replied. See that there is a lot of engagement also from the audience, which is very good. I think now we can close the poll and see the results. And we see that demand from private and commercial customers is the first option, the most the one that was chosen the most from the audience perspective. Omar,
Yeah.
would you like to comment on these results very briefly?
Yeah, I would say I agree with that because I think that there are some built-in characteristics in circular economy that will drive the demand for circular products, because we saw what happened in other sectors, very different from us. But when a new service or new kind of product comes to the market, it spreads very quickly. For example, if we think about cars, how many possibilities we have now. When you just want to drive a car, you can buy it like you used to. You can rent, lease, you can buy it month for month and then update it after 3 years, or you can use a car sharing service. No, so this developed, in my opinion, a kind of appetite for comfort, for good solutions that could led the demand for more circular products and service also in our sector. Then, of course, there are specific tools that are designed to boost circularity. For what we have now, my opinion is that green public procurement is the most important one. We have it mandatory in Italy. And it affects a lot of companies. And when you have to deal with this, you have to face suddenly a lot of challenges simultaneously. So recycled content, dangerous substances, reparability, disassembly, all in one. So it's also a good learning path for the companies. And I hope that this would be well addressed by the Commission when developing these mandatory criteria, because it's crucial to us that they would be developed together with the industry expert. Eco-design rules could play a very important role, but depending on how the regulation will come out the end of next year, has the potential to to give a boost to circularity in our sector, but we also fear that could kind of lead our companies in a strict path if the rules are too strict and the same for every product or every company.
Sure, and for this reason, we need to make sure. Sorry for interrupting. We need to make sure that that we as industry and our voice is heard. You know, during the process of creating all these legislations, to make sure that it works in practice, as you said, Omar. And I think looking also at the time, I think we can stop this, stop with this question here and move to the next question that we have prepared for the audience, which is, what do you think that are the main challenges in this transition to a circular economy? So again, we will see a poll on the screen. And we would like you to select the one that you think is the most impactful challenge. Okay, so there is a poll now on the screen. So among the challenges, we have the complexity of the products and the value chain, as well as the supply chain. Current legislation is based on a linear logic, a conflict between resource efficiency and non-toxic environment objectives, misaligned circular economy initiatives at member state level, and insufficient market surveillance. We give a couple of seconds for everyone to reply. So as said, please select the one that you believe is the largest challenge. Of course, there might be a combination of these. Okay, and I think we can slowly end the poll. And we see that complexity of products, the value chain and the supply chain is the most preferred option, so the largest challenge. Robin, would you like to briefly comment on this?
This looks very interesting, and we see there's a clear answer that the complexity of products and value and supply chain is obviously something that people gather as a problem. I would say that there are a number of different challenges for the furniture industry to overcome in order to be more circular. And furniture represents quite complex products with a lot of different components and different materials, including wood, plastic, metal, padding material, textile, leather, rubber, and so forth. A lot of different components. Furniture also, as we see here, relies on a complex value and supply chain. So there are many aspects and stakeholders to consider when developing the circular products and circular business models. And in addition to that, we need to build up some kind of new supply chain for taking back used furniture for the industry to remanufacture. And then when developing circular business models, we see obstacles in terms of certain legal issues. Many regulations are based on a linear logic, such as the Product Safety Directive, the Machine Directive, and in particular regarding chemical legislation, where we see a conflict between, on one hand, resource efficiency, circular economy, and on the other hand, what's called non-toxic or toxic-free. And also the regulation regarding waste must be looked into. We must change the way we look upon waste and regard it as a resource. In fact, we must regard it as a valuable raw material for remanufacturing. And today's waste must go back to the industry as raw material. And at the end of the day, it comes down to creating customer value and fulfilling the need of the customer. And this must be based on a circular logic. And the customer must find it valuable to demand circular products. And here lies a challenge, of course. But I would say the greatest challenge of all is to create the incentives to change the whole manufacturing industry on a broad scale going from linear production to a circular logic when generating customer value. So those are the real challenges, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. So we've gone through the opportunities and the challenges in this transition to the circularity in the furniture sector. If we could wrap up this first panel discussion in 1 minute, I would like to hear from each of you. What would you recommend to the European policymakers? What we need from them? So very briefly, if you could give us a couple of insights here. Thank you.
Okay, I go first. I try to go very quickly. I would say I really hope that we can develop a solid common platform for GPP, because GPP criteria are very crucial, and we experienced having it mandatory in Italy, that the design of this process to derive criteria for public procurement is very, very critical and important. And another recommendation would be to have a flexible framework with goals for the industry related to eco-design and freedom on the way to get it. One last thing I can say, it's while doing these things, to remain vigilant on the actions of the member states, because sometimes they have the willing to step into this process and regulate in their own way arguments that should be better regulated at European level.
Exactly, and this is something that we have advocated also in our previous position papers, so aligned initiatives at EU level on circularity. Robin, some remarks from your side?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's necessary to review regulations at EU level and sometimes where appropriate also at national level. And then I would say that when designing the upcoming product passport and when widening the eco-design directive to include furniture, it would be fruitful or even necessary to have a dialogue with the industry. And of course, we are very happy to contribute with expertise and context. And when developing the product passport and life cycle assessment methods such as the PEF, and also when setting criteria for GPP, Green Public Procurement, and the EU Eco Level, all this must be done in a holistic manner, making sure that the different initiatives, the different labels, and the different systems work and function well together in a circular context, and that they do not contradict each other. And last, I believe that the level playing field is key. All actors on the European market must comply with all regulations in the same way, and therefore the market surveillance should be a priority.
Well, thank you very much to both of you for the insights. I see that in the chat there's some other suggestions as well, such as building up hybrid business models based on sales and rental options for consumers, which could also speed up the transition to the circular economy. So again, thank you very much to both of you for these interesting insights. We've heard so far recommendations to policymakers on how to make this transition smoother. And now we would like to turn our eyes to the industry, and we have 4 industry representatives here today. So it is my pleasure to introduce the panelists of our next session to discuss the potential of circular design for furniture and to hear their experiences on the ground with furniture circular design. We have with us Christian Lodraert, sorry for my pronunciation, who is head of products and brands at Flock. He has spent 10 years in the automotive sector before moving to the furniture industry, and the responsible industry and sustainable design has been a red thread throughout his career. Welcome, Christian. We have Malin Nordin from Inter IKEA. She heads the circular business development of IKEA, which includes circular product design, new circular customer experience, innovation, and sourcing of renewable and recycled materials, among others. Hi, Malin. Welcome also to you. We have Holger Hanhardt. He is since 2017 managing director at Hartmann Möbelwerke, a leading German manufacturer of solid wood furniture. Welcome, Holger. And we have Maria Porro. She is Marketing and Communication Director at Porro SPA, a 95-year-old family company, Italian family company, one of the leading brands for high-end modular furniture in Italy. Welcome, Maria. We're very glad to have you here today with us, and I'm sure that our audience also is very willing and very eager to hear your experiences with circular design in furniture. And I would like to get started now, and I will also look at the clock to make sure that we stay within the established time frame. I would like to have a quick tour de table with each of you to hear how you integrate sustainability and circular economy principles in your company. So very briefly, 30 seconds from each of you, we would like to hear your insights. Would like to start?
I can start. So to Flock, of course, this is clearly about systematically cracking down on all the traces our operation leaves on the planet, and then identifying the big chunks, the big contributors to those footprints, and so that we can direct on our efforts on how to address those. And you know, for the furniture industry, it's quite easy to identify those chunks because it's all about the products. It's about the resources they consume in production and about their longevity. So we have metrics on CO2 emission intensity per produced unit, that is, energy intensity on post-consumer recycled plastic consumptions per product, new developed and totally in the company. We almost reached the 700 target we set for ourselves last year on post-consumer recycled plastic refined into new products. This year the target is 800. Let's see, and we stick our necks out for 1,000 tons in 2021.
Thank you, Christian. Malin, would you like to go next?
Yes, I can build on Christian. It's all about taking a holistic approach, and also like Marcus said in the introduction. And for us, from an IKEA perspective, this really to take an approach to develop and understand the complete value chain and develop that into a circular business. And I think also the starting point for us and the main driver is really coming back to the behavioral change in the society from a consumer perspective, and how this being a circular business for IKEA can help us to be even more affordable and reach and grow the company. It's also important for us to be able to reach the tough climate goals and what we are in line with the Paris Agreement. And in the end, also, of course, being very careful and how we're utilizing and using resources. So for us, it's really, we have set up the target to be a circular business by 2030. And of course, what does that mean for us? It means basically that we will, as also Christian said, develop and design the products right from the beginning, only having circular products that enabling the business around reuse, refurbishment, and so forth, and develop also our customer meeting points and how we interact with our customers when it comes to acquire, care for, and pass on. And also only using renewable and recycled materials. And also us happily, of course, being here, we also want to take the lead and being part and inspire others, and also find partners to work together with this. Because there's no point of IKEA being a circular company if no one else is, and the society is not changing.
Absolutely. Holga, what about from your company's perspective? What are your goals in terms of sustainability and circular economy?
I would say that the end consumers who are concerned with sustainability are mostly thinking in wood, or on the other hand, who is concerned with wood, the sustainability is very familiar. We at Hartmann Möbelwerke are using solid wood, which comes exclusively from sustainably managed forest stands. So in this way, we ensure that our environment is preserved as a basis of life for future generations. Valuable resources, as in our case, the raw material wood, are protected from exploitations, and therefore as much wood may be felled as grows back. We don't use exotic woods, and in this way we support a forestry that has been subject to sustainable management for decades. In the circular economy, we did a lot to be in a frame of 100% climate neutral recovery. Therefore, we are a participant of the Climate Pact of the German Quality Community for Furniture, and also known for the label the Golden M, for example. Let me tell some other examples. For our production, we are using our own electricity with more than 9,000 photovoltaic modules to save over 1,300 tons of carbon dioxide. And we use the wood cuttings and shavings produced during production to heat our production halls, this avoiding an additional 950 tons of carbon dioxide per year. And further,
so it's a lot. It's very much focused on your vision on circularity, or your goals related to circularity or sustainability. Let's say look a lot into the materials and the production processes. So thank you very much for sharing your experience here. What about Maria? How do you see circularity from your company's perspective?
You know, we started almost 100 years ago. It was my grandfather Giulio, and it was just a craft workshop. And now we are an international brand. What we do is to combine handicraft tradition with the most advanced informative technologies. So we think that the challenge we are facing is, of course, related to the product, but it's more related to what industry does. And that's why our strategic investments are aimed to improve the quality of the workplace, the quality of the production, of process, and of course, the quality of product. To do this, what we do is to apply a lean method, a sustainable growth approach. We invest in the manufacture with a very short supply chain, because we manufacture everything inside our factories 100% made in Italy, so we can control every step. And we invest in the manufacture to reduce our impact, choosing the right raw materials, with the goal of the highest quality and the highest and longest durability, because we think that durability is very important when you think circular.
Thank you, Maria. So again, looking into materials and processes, lean production, would you have a couple of examples for us briefly on circular products that your company develops? And perhaps we can share the links via the chat for everyone to see them.
Yes, I would like to look from an holistic point of view, as everybody is saying here today. So where, not only what, but where, how, and what. Where Poro works in natural light since 2020, thanks to a factory that has a unique concept, because all the perimeter is made of windows, such as the ceiling. The other half of the ceiling is made of photovoltaic panels. This thanks to the fact that we change the working shift according to the seasons, we can work mostly in natural light. This, of course, means a place of work for employees, which is much more better, but also a higher quality on the control of what we produce. But when we talk about circularity again, the fact that we reduce the energy consumption just using the natural solar light. If we think about how we produce, I want to tell you just one of the last steps. In 2018, we completely revolutionized the way we produce. We are specialized in modular furniture. I mean, wardrobes, bookshelves, so you can have a little bit of imagine what we do. And we decided to replace the process of changing from production of standard pieces, standard panel, with the purchasing of just-in-time panels based on customer orders. And this is the lean approach again. This helped us to optimize the material consumption with the reduction of the waste, minimizing the waste that we produce, but also we have been able to completely eliminate the warehouse stock. So we don't have any stock in our factory. What we produce is a specific answer to a specific customer somewhere in the world. We have also developed a tracing method, so we can trace order for many, many years, and we can replace specific parts. This to improve the durability of the product.
Well, thank you very much, Maria, for all these insights. I think they're very valuable, and I'm sure that companies around the table will appreciate these ideas a lot. I would like to ask another question now to Malin and to Christian. As companies that are working with circular design, do you think that there are key ingredients for good circular design? And can you give us briefly a couple of examples of products that have developed with circular?
Sure. We in the early 90s, we developed this concept, a set of 5 design rules that you could deploy to achieve improvements on 3 different sustainability scales on climate emissions, on resource consumption, and on health of the users. And this is quite stuck with us for a long time, still does, and it's becoming quite widespread, I think. And it's actually quite plain logic, because as I said, it's down to the products. And if we crack down on the figures in the company, we see that roughly 80% of our carbon equivalent emissions are down to products. And if we go dive into the products again, it's more than 90. That is down to the materials they consume. So it's quite easy. These 5 criteria, you can watch them online as well. The first one is low weight. If you use less, of course, it must be better. The second one is few components. If you design for fewer components, you'll have easier processes, easier logistics, easier refurbishment, and easier dismantling and sorting into pure material fractions. And then the third one, which is a big chunk, is right choice of materials. And again, here is where we would promote post-consumer recycled materials like plastics, like aluminium. We would typically favor those. We would try to reduce our use of virgin material. And there's certainly some that we would completely avoid, like composites, because it can't be properly recycled, like chrome plating, which has health issues in the value chain. So that's the third one. And the fourth one is also obvious. It's about longevity. I mean, the best thing would be for our customers not to need a new chair at all, right? We wouldn't have to produce one. Would be nice. So to design products so that they are loved, kept for a long time, can be repaired when needed, and kept for even longer is a design imperative, of course. And then finally then to the fifth one is to design for disassembly, to make sure that at the end of the life it's possible to dismantle this product and sort it into pure material fractions, so the material can go back into the cycle. So what this means is that, for instance, we don't use glue in our production. We try to avoid glue completely, so that they can be easily sorted in pure fractions. And this addresses the total sustainability objective, and it doesn't just pave the way for changed behavior among the customers, enabling them to behave circularly, but it also pushes us to run our operation in a circular way. So not just pushing second-hand products on or waiting for customers to accept second-hand products, but for us also to accept second-hand material.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for sharing your experience with the 5-3 concept, which is also linked in the chat so that everyone can have a look at it. Malin, would you like to build on Flock experience and to tell us something about the IKEA perspective?
Yeah, I think we have a very similar approach to how to design products for a circular business. So I will not repeat myself into Christian. It's very much similar. And I think also what we have learned that I would like to share is that we have now made an assessment of the complete offer that IKEA has, that is approximately 10,000 articles, to understand how circular are they today, based on very much what Christian already shared, the different design principles. We have come up with 7, so let's see, maybe some more for you to add, Christian. And then what we found out is that there are some that is, because we have so different product types within IKEA. I mean, we have everything from napkins to a toilet brush to a sofa, home furnishing products. And of course, there is not, one solution fits all, but what is very common is the basic circular design formula is very much to use the right material from the beginning, only using renewable or recycled material. Built the products on standard solutions, everything from components, materials, colors, measurements, to make it easier in the afterlife. And then, of course, I think what is really crucial is also to design the products for recyclability and biodegradability. That we can see is common for all product types. But then what we realize is that taking a circular business perspective and for different product categories, there are, you can say, different design formula or circular recipes to make them as relevant and as circular as possible, because it's different depending if, as I said, if you have a more complex product, it's important, especially for furniture, the whole idea around longevity that Christian talked about, prolonged life of products, making sure that they have spare parts, that it can be maintained, the ability to be adapted over life and so forth. And as an example, I mean, when we have done this assessment, we were very glad to see that many products are in a very high stage of being circular. There are some missing components, and that is, I think, also the way we have been working with design within IKEA. And we have some examples. We have a wooden storage solution called EVIC that has been in the IKEA range for a very, very long time. That is a solid wood product that is a modular system, which you can basically care and maintain for a very long time. You can change and adapt it throughout your life, everything. You can use it in many various ways. And to add that, if you bring in like a sofa, it's important for us to build that on standard platforms. So, because that is a very complex product, and how can we then support customers with new covers, new legs, new armrest, so you can actually live with that frame that lasts for a very, very long time, but adding then the parts that has a shorter lifetime. Just to give it some examples.
Thank you very much, Malin. I see that the IKEA website has been linked in the chat, so all these examples can be found there. I saw in the chat that there's a couple of questions on business models to IKEA, and also Benoit Godon would like to hear more about the traceability and repairability ecosystem at Porro. I would suggest, given the time, that we take these questions up individually via email. Yes. And I would like to thank you all very much for your insights and the examples of circular products that you have shared with us. I would like to ask you a question. So you are all very experienced in sustainability and circular economy principles in your companies. What do you think, very briefly, that that businesses need in order to flourish in the transition to a circular economy? So perhaps we can have a short tour de table and hear your views very briefly, if I may. Thank you.
Yeah, I can start. And I think we will share different perspective. And one perspective is that to really see it as a business transformation for your company, that it is a way to be more relevant to the behavior change in the society, being more affordable and better quality products, and not lead it as a side sustainability project. I think that is key. I think you need to be prepared to work agile and innovate and think out of the box, and also collaborate, being open to work together with others, other partners, and you can't be figuring and solving all your complete value chain dilemmas on your own. So it will also require an interest and an inspiration to work together.
Christian.
Yes, yeah, I would.
Very briefly, if I may say, thank you.
Sure, I would agree to everything Malin just said. In addition, maybe from legislators and big customers, you know, the statement would be allow us to compete on sustainability. Allow us to compete on sustainability performance on an equal footing. So harmonize requirements so Holger can have access to the markets here up north, and we can have access to Germany on an equal footing, and set the purchasing criteria in a way that separate the best from the second best, so that you get the competition going. And I would encourage LCAs and carbon emission figures to be the metric to go by. Make sure that we get this competition going. I certainly hope to lose a tender sometime going forward on too high carbon emissions. That would be, you know, to get these kind of situations in the competitive field would give a great trigger for more energy within the players in this industry.
Thank you. Holger, would you like to say a couple of words? 30 seconds, very briefly.
And first, I agree with Christian. What I think the most important thing is to promoting the circular economy in the European Union, and I think we need to have an information campaign from the Commission, and then we are on the same line, I think.
Very good. Thank you very much, Maria. Last remarks from your side.
Yeah, I think harmonization is the key word. So we have to build on same basis and work on this subject, avoiding the possibility that this becomes an excuse for non-tariff basis barriers. So I think that harmonization is very, very, very important.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. Thank you very much to our panelists of this second panel. We're slowly reaching the end of our event today. I believe we've learned quite a lot from both the intervention from the European Commission and the different interventions in our panel discussions. I do realize that we're standing between you and your lunch, so I would like to share a couple of takeaway messages in my view from this session, and I will share these briefly on the screen. So first of all, given also the time, I think we definitely need to organize this kind of events more often. There's a lot of experiences to share, and we definitely need to organize more conferences and webinars. Companies, as we've heard, are very much encouraged to embrace circular economy principles and see it as a competitive advantage. We see that transitioning to a circular economy will be the main contribution of the furniture industry to reach climate goals. We have heard many times that we're talking about the transition here. There's still a lot to learn, there's still a lot to define and to change to achieve this circular logic. And this also applies to consumers and purchasing behaviors. Collaboration has been mentioned several times. This is key. Collaboration among policymakers, industry, suppliers, academia is very necessary. Policymakers should rely on the industry and standardization bodies. As we've seen, there's a lot of good examples already from the industry's side. Policymakers should also ensure that harmonized legislation is put in place at EU level and that a holistic approach is taken across policies in order to avoid contradictions. They should also consider the complexity of furniture and the supply and the value chain. The industry should have flexibility to innovate. Policymakers should set the goal, and then it would be for the industry to find the right technical solutions. And last but not least, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. I'm sure there is many more takeaway messages that you can add to these, but with this, I would like to thank everyone for their involvement. Thank you so much to our speakers today for their time and for sharing their experiences and knowledge. This is very much appreciated. Thank you so much for the audience for being here today. There is some questions that we haven't managed to address, but we will do this via email on a bilateral basis. Thank you very much also to my colleague Georgia Murgia, who has not been very visible, but she has done a great deal of work in the background. And we hope that this webinar was interesting to you. We will be sharing the recording as mentioned at the very beginning. And if there is any questions, don't hesitate to write to us. The email address is info@efic.eu. We will be more than happy to reply to any questions you may have. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.